Is trouble brewing for Dallas with Daniel Gafford? Will he potentially ask for too much money, which leads to a trade? And if you're a team in need of a big, wink, wink, the Lakers, is he somebody you should be trying to pivot and get as part of your offseason plans? We're going to cover all that and more in today's video here on the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe because 80% of viewers are literally missing out by not being subscribed. As Trevor Lane and I cover the entire NBA. As news comes out, you're going to hear about it first here. So again, make sure you stick around for the upcoming content. That being said, just on the Laker piece, yeah, he'd be great. He had that little clip with him and Luka where they were like, yeah, we'll play together soon or something like that. I believe he's also trying to play on the national team with Luka as well. So that's another little tidbit. So the fun thing with this is that if you're Nico, can you go reasonably and sell a trade for Gafford to the Lakers? Can you actually do that? Like, do you just block Pelinka's number from here just because the perception would just be so bad? Even if it's an even trade both ways, there's just so much bad blood, I guess I should say, for lack of a better term, between both teams as fan bases, right? Not really, I guess, from the Lakers side, but you know what I'm saying. Like, there's just so much animosity from the Dallas side. Like, can you reasonably sell a trade? Unless you're getting back like all their assets, I don't see how people will be happy with that. But that being said, I don't think that if you're a team, you can operate that way. I think you've just got to get the best deal done if you have to make a deal, right? But that being said, though, on the Daniel Gafford piece, really, he's in a position where he's going to want starting center money. And this team's already got several bigs making a lot of money, right? So what are they going to do with the roster? Tim McMahon talked about it earlier today. We're going to watch the video, but Derek is a year away from getting an extension. Daniel Gafford is entering the final year of his contract. Gafford reasonably and rightly wants to get starting center money. You can't have AD on a max, Lively on a big contract, and pay Gafford starting center money as well. Let's take a look at their overall payroll here. AD's locked down 62 million in the final year of the deal. PJ getting 15 and 14 this season, next year as well. He's going to be getting that 14. So I'd assume that you're looking at PJ like, well, what are we doing here? What's the number? Are you going to take a full MLE? Like, what are we doing? Gafford, 14 million as well. You're going to, again, look at him and say, okay, well, are you going to be willing to take MLE money? Do we even have that? I don't even know what their numbers look like for their books, but he wants starting center money. That tells me he's going to want 20 mil plus. Like, I think there's a bit of a crunch that's going to happen there. Derek Lively, again, he's got the rookie scale deal for a couple of years, but he's going to be due another extension in a few years. So that'll kick in a few years. So there's that. And maybe that's part of the reason why Dallas was just demoing so many bigs towards the end of the season, like Kai Jones and stuff. They were just rotating in and out. A lot of these guys, maybe they're just having forward thinking, but really they were just so hurt that, they needed to get anybody in the building anyway. And they needed bigs too, because all the bigs were hurt. So just kind of a tricky situation to be in if you're Dallas with all these bigs. And really what it is AD. I mean, I know he wants to play power forward. It's been a huge debate if he's a power forward or a center for some reason in the Laker fan base. But the reality is regardless, even in the seasons where he played a lot of power forward, he still played a decent amount of his minutes at the center. He's going to have to do the same here. He's just going to have to play 50 or so percent of his minutes at the center. Really what it is if AD can get away with not being a center 95 to 100% of the time, then I think he's okay with it, because that's what had really kind of happened the last couple of years in LA. He was just always the center. They just literally said, no, you're not going to play power forward ever. You're always a center. And I think that's what he wanted to get away from. And so also, if you're Mavs and you look at it like, hey, AD, this is the kind of trade we're going to make. What does he say about trading off Gafford potentially for like a forward or something like that? This team does need more backcourt creation. That's something I think should be at the very, very tippy top of their short list of things that they need to improve on in their next season plans. But overall, what does AD think about trading away one of the centers that he probably covets? I mean, they were so hurt. These guys didn't get the chance to play together all that much, really, the entire roster. Honestly, it's ridiculous. The amount of games everybody missed, just one after another, was just ridiculous. But you didn't really get to see it, what you really truly had here. And you don't have to make a decision immediately. All these guys are locked up through next year. So you can get to the deadline even and say, okay, well, you know what? Sorry, Gaff, we're not going to pay you what you want. It's not going to work. Then we're just going to move on from there. And also, Gafford wants starting center money. Is he going to actually be your starting center? Is that going to happen, or is that going to be Lively? right? They've gone back and forth with that over the last couple of years. Is it going to be Lively? Because if that's the case, you got to make a decision there too, right? And then I worry about the fact that in the playoffs, when you need to start a smaller group or something like that, it just winds up being AD. And that's fine. The optionality is what you really want there. But I just wonder if you can have all these guys on a big deal, like Tim McMahon say, like it doesn't make much sense. And that says nothing about, again, PJ, who's in an exact same situation where you're going to hit the deadline and be like, all right, so what are we doing? Right. So anyway, I wanted to play this video because we haven't played
Mavericks
it yet.
kind of quietly sniffed around about the value of Daniel Gafford before this last deadline. It certainly would make sense for them to do that again this summer. Derek Lively is a year away from getting an extension. Daniel Gafford's entering the final year of his contract. Gafford reasonably and rightfully is going to want to get paid starting center money. You can't have AD on a max, Lively on a big contract, and pay Gafford starting center money. Luka's obviously got chemistry with Gafford. I don't know if Nico wants to go back to Ascension Coffee and have another chit chat with Rob Pelinka so soon, or do something that would benefit.
I think Ascension Coffee has to rebrand. I wonder if their business has suffered.
No, because it's like a tourist destination, dude.
Okay,
it's a tourist
destination where Luka got traded.
Shot.
That's crazy.
If people want to go see where JFK got shot, they definitely want to see where Luka got traded.
Oh my god!
Well, I'm just saying.
Oh my god!
All right, so on that topic, I do think the operative word there is starting center money, and also it's interesting that they were already quietly trying to gauge his value. What is starting center money? 20 million? Like I said, what is that? And if you're going to invest so heavily in the front court, what are you doing with your backcourt needs? Which again, you also have. You're in a weird situation. But I wanted to just take a look at Daniel Gafford's statistics this year. Was pretty unavailable, but again, everyone was. And the thing with Gafford that's always been kind of interesting, he's a career 20-minute per game guy. So for whatever reason, teams don't think they can play him more than that. Maybe it's just, that's when he's most effective. There are some guys who come in and energize you to the point where like 20 minutes, 25 minutes is about the most that they should be playing, because after that, it's kind of diminishing returns. Maybe he's just one of those guys. I haven't watched his career enough to truly tell you the answer to that. But I know for a fact a guy like Jared Vanderbilt is that guy. That guy, if Vanderbilt plays anywhere from like 15 to 22-ish minutes, it's perfect. No more, no less. That's perfect. So yeah, that's another thing for him. Plays about 20 minutes per game, but hyper efficient lob threat, all that stuff, 70% field goal percentage last season and as a career number for him. Free throws are a little bit better than most of his archetypes, so you'd like that as well. But really, the rim protection and rebounding, I think, is extremely valuable for him as well. So he's getting you about 7 rebounds per game in 20 minutes. He's also getting an assist and a half and nearly 2 blocks in 20 minutes. Like that's great. 12 points, that's great. But again, whatever team he would go to potentially would hope to play him maybe more than 20 minutes, right? So I do wonder about if potential diminishing returns kick in or what things look like otherwise for him. And he's been a part of some teams that have had multiple bigs too, so maybe that's a piece of it as well. Now, overall, in terms of the lineup data for him, when he was on the court, they were basically a net neutral, which is pretty interesting. I sorted it to lineups that didn't include Luka, and there's this one group here that's got a crazy plus 20 with Kyrie, Dinwiddie, Thompson, Washington, and Gafford. They were awesome. Plus 20 is awesome. 167 possessions, not the most, but he was just very good for them overall this season, despite, again, limited availability. And now I wanted to see the double lineup stuff that they're doing. So, look at the possessions. My God. So, yeah, this season, any data from this season post-AD trade just doesn't matter. They were just hurt so much. Overall, they were a slight positive. I mean, plus 2 is good, but, it just wasn't enough sample here. They were better on offense than they were on defense also, which is also interesting. But the most used group had 16 possessions. AD, Gafford, Washington at small forward, Clay, and Dinwiddie. And there were a minus 15 with that group. But the next 2 had nearly as many possessions, and they were up. Next 3 were like huge positives. Like, this is just not enough sample size between these 2 specifically being on the court together, which is, again, what would be the presumed starting lineup. Maybe it's Lively, but overall, you're going to be playing him with AD. I'm curious about Lively, if they ever play these 2 together. I don't assume they ever really do that. Yeah, I didn't think so. They never do this. I didn't think so. So ultimately, though, you have an intriguing player the funny thing is, I think if he's only able to play 20 minutes a game, I think he's appropriately paid. Like I don't know if if he wants 20, 25, whatever it is. I think 14, 15 is like a really good number. But the thing is that if he's giving you that production in that short amount of time, you would think like that's where per 36 kicks in. You would think he'd be a monster in an actual high minute starting role. I just don't know if you're going to get that same production. Do you start introducing more health injury issues as well? That's another question. But circling back to the beginning, if you're a team in need of a center, there's not a lot of options. And if Gafford becomes available, I do think you need to go. You do need to go out and try to make something happen. Now, if you're LA specifically, what does that really look like? I mean, you've got a nearly matched salary for salary. I don't know if they are above thresholds or anything like that. Aprons, I'd assume they are overall. I just don't know where to pull that up on this page specifically. I'd assume that they are, overall over the apron. They're at 175 mil this year. I'd assume that's over the apron number. I'm not a salary cap guy, but it's 13 mil less than the Lakers. So I'd assume so. Anyway, if not, it's like right at the line. Like it's like right there. So what does that look like? If you're trying to go salary for salary, you can put together maybe a couple of guys, something like that, just depending on where these guys are at in terms of like the apron stuff with the aggregation rules and all that. And in terms of that, if you're Dallas, who do you even want back from LA? Do you want a Rui? Are you able to take Rui? Do you want a Rui? Do you want Gabe? Do you want Kleber back with a minimum deal? Like, what do you want overall? I think that's where this gets pretty interesting. And then on top of that, it's not so much about the player. I think it's also about the assets they'd be getting back too. Like the player obviously matters because they're in a win now mode, but I think that the asset they get back does matter. I wonder if Gabe is a nice piece for them. I think Gabe is well, it would be a small backcourt. I think he's a nice plug next to a Kyrie or a Dinwiddie. I think that would be a nice plug as an off-ball guard that you can put out there, do a little bit of 3-and-D for you too, hustle guy, just a glue guy. That's what Gabe is. He doesn't take much away from you. And if he gets hot, he gets really hot. So I think that would be something that they may potentially want. But if you're Dallas, I don't really see much here that I would want from the Lakers. I just don't. Because you need to, I think, stay with your size overall, especially to appease Anthony. And I also think that your next need is a backcourt creator, which I just don't think they have. If they could get Reeves, that would be great. I think they would do it for Reeves. And Reeves would fit a need for them. But that's just not going to happen. The Lakers wouldn't do it. So overall, though, it's kind of all over the place. But Gafford is a name to watch on the trade market this season. So make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We'll see you in the next video.